Hello and welcome to Alicante Airport. We are at the Spoons. Jet2.com today, back to London on their 737. How really good is their product? If you want to find out more, well, stay tuned. Okay, let's be clear. Introductions are not my strong point. I can assure you I am doing my utmost best to work on them, and I can only hope that they're going to get better with time. So stick with us because the intros will get better. So a very warm welcome back to the channel. Today we're flying on Jet2.com, the most viral holiday company I'd say in the world, on board flight LS1412 from Alicante to London Stansted. This flight cost me just €45 with a flight time today of around 2 hours and 25 minutes. Yes, quite a long one today due to some weather issues we had at the other end, which you'll see very, very shortly. Okay, aircraft moves on today. If you are interested in Golf Juliet Zulu Hotel Delta. Jet2 is a huge following in the UK, especially for leisure routes. But how does it actually compare when you're on board? What is the product that they offer? So we've taken a right turn in, sort of entered the terminal right down the rear end. Excessive number of check-in desks. Obviously, you see your standard sort of TUI, Jet2.com will appear. easyJet have got quite a big setup here as well, as do Ryanair. So let's just go through Alicante Airport so far and their sort of, what to expect upon sort of entering the terminal. As you can see, it's a very sort of clear and open space with quite high ceilings, so it sort of creates an atmosphere, whereas it's almost calming and peaceful, which is really nice to see. Obviously, I have flown out of season, okay, so it's important to remember that this is being shot out of season. We're not in the peak summer holiday. But honestly, overall, I think it's by far a nice, calm, warm entrance to an airport. I can imagine the summer, this can get quite stressful. So there's the Jet2 setup today. Here on the right-hand side, there's plenty of representatives there to help you, some being English, some being Spanish. We head straight to security, and that was a very, very quick and easy process. We was through security in around 5 minutes. Alicante haven't got the new scanning system, so it was laptops out, iPads out, bags out, everything, you name it, it was out. And then you're deposited straight into the terminal. Now, we have no lounge on this flight today, so what do you do when you're in a sort of a Spanish airport? You find the Burger King, which is exactly what we did. You can see there's an array of shops. It's not overly busy. I'm just looking for the Burger King, which I have actually identified by this point on the right hand side. And I feel like getting a Burger King is very much a tradition if you're not in a business class product. You always end up finding a Burger King in a Spanish airport. I don't know what you're thinking. What did you get? Well, look, it was a double whopper, it was fries, it was a drink. By the way, this drink that you're about to, that's a large, it's huge, and some chili cheese bites. Look, I know you don't really care about what I ordered, but look, Burger King was there, it was stone cold, it was overpriced. What more would you expect from a European airport? After the Burger King, where did we head next? Well, now, we headed straight for the gates, which is a complete separate section of the airport. Now, if you're non-Schengen, you're going through the nice and to be famous biometric scanning point. I've already registered, I've explained that to this point, and they actually let me go straight through. Once you've got your passport stamped, you've done more fingerprints, taken more pictures of you, then you're in the non-Schengen zone of the airport, which is obviously now mostly dominated by UK flights. Another duty free, more coffee shops, vending machines. Now, to be fair, it's fair to say the vending machines are actually quite reasonable. A bottle of water, I think, was €1.20, which I did actually do, which I thought was really not too bad. There's WH Smith, and WH Smith in a Spanish airport was crazy, isn't it? But hey, and yet another Burger King. Now, I wasn't greedy, I just ignored it really, even though the temptation was there. Looking at the board, our gate was up, so by this point it was a big U-turn all the way back up to find our gate. Now, Jet2's boarding process, make it make sense. I'll explain in just a second. We pull up at the gate, we're boarding from B27 today, really big signage, it's impossible to miss. I don't know where B28 is, but hey ho, that's for another day. Now, the boarding process. There's our 737 today, a really old aircraft, one of the Jet2's oldest 737s in their fleet. I'll talk through the boarding process sort of shortly. We're just about to get on board now. It was the boarding, not boarding, so it was all held in the bridge for about 10 minutes. Tight leg room. It was a bit of a squeeze, to be fair. The guy next to me was sort of taking quite a lot of space up. Standard tray table, magazines, and that was the view. Now, I think the best point now is to discuss the boarding while we push back. So Jet2 board by seat number, and in essence they call the rear of the aircraft on first, then the middle, then the front. I was in seat 8A, so I was relatively near the front. I was in the last sort of group that they called forward for boarding, and to be honest with you, it was an absolute shambles. It just doesn't work. I always find that when airlines are boarding, boarding via seat number, it just doesn't really work. I never really seen it. I mean, I think back to like the Thomas Cook days, it just doesn't really work. And the whole boarding process took nearly sort of 25 to 30 minutes. And there were still people, I got on towards the end, and there was still a lot of people going, and it was just carnage. It just doesn't really work. I just think, I don't know, is there a way they can introduce it to boarding groups, smaller people, police it better at the gate? They tried, but you know, people are just stubborn and they just want to get on the plane, and they spent more time trying to police it at the gate, and it just had a bit of a knock-on effect. So boarding really wasn't actually a great experience. Anyhow, moving on. We taxi out our old 737-800, and he's on our way up to the runway here at Alicante. Like I said before, 2 hours and around about 25-minute flight time today, due to some severe sort of low cloud base and fog at London Stansted, which we'll see at the other end. It just meant we had to do a bit of holding for separation reasons. So yeah, relatively long flight. We'll taxi out to the runway, and I'll let you enjoy the remainder of the taxi just before we take off. Okay, so A320 on final approach there from Welling, and it was time to taxi on for our rolling departure, really. Yeah, nice takeoff. I'll just shut up now, really, and let you enjoy it, because the view is pretty incredible. We're retreating to a departure over the mainland, so enjoy the takeoff. lovely Alicante February summer sky. I say summer sky, it's not really a thing, is it? It was still warm though, to be fair. It was around 21, 22 degrees. After departure, we was hit with a little bit of initial turbulence. and a few pockets of air that was sort of pre-warned by the flight crew. But I know it was a lovely takeoff and lovely views for our departure. Shortly after departure, we was greeted by our welcome PA and a sort of a brief explanation of what services to expect on board our flight today, and was still greeted by some amazing views. Now we are on our way. Obviously, we're on our way now. Service started very quickly. Duty free followed it very quickly. There's only one round of drinks and food service. There's some new trainees on the aircraft, so I think the service took a little bit longer than normal. This is now us at our cruising altitude, just sort of going over the Pyrenees. We were pre-warned about some turbulence, which never really seemed to happen. So I just let you enjoy the views, and you can tell by the way the video goes on. Just get closer to the UK because the weather just gets more and more dull. Are you now ready to see some awful camera work? Because I'm sure you are. The 737-800 had no window blinds in it, so I tried to capture that in this clip. And to be frankly honest, it just wasn't really too good. I think I'll try again in a second. To try and show you how there's no window blind or no blinds in this. Look, it's just the greatest, isn't it? And to be fair, while I was doing this clip, I actually identified that the window was quite grotty, quite grimy. I felt a bit compact on the aircraft as well. So yeah, I've flown with Jet2 before, and this experience wasn't as great as the other experience. But hey ho, look, I'm not here to complain. So, we're about to commence our approach, and to be honest with you, the view does not get much better than this till we're about 200 feet above the ground. And we've done a lot of holding, a lot of circling, all due to weather. So, as we like to do in these videos, we're now going to discuss the flight overall. So the Jet2, the seat in the cabin. So it's a standard 3-3 layout, which you'd expect on a leisure airline on their 737-800. The legroom is sort of what you'd expect from a short-haul leisure sort of airline. It's not generous, but it's perfectly fine for a couple of hours. I mean, from when I've flown before, I actually found that the legroom I had on another Jet2 airplane was a little bit better. I don't know if this is because this is an older aircraft, I really don't know. Or to be honest with you, I'm potentially, just it's a psychological thing because the seat next to me, the guy next to me was quite crammed in. The crew and the atmosphere, one thing about Jet2 really seemed to get right is the atmosphere from the flight deck and sort of the pilot's enthusiasm. And I think that sort of ricochets and that sort of shows within some of the flight crew as well. They're friendly, they seem relaxed, generally seem happy to sort of be working for Jet2, which actually makes a huge difference to the experience, by all means. It feels more like a holiday airline than just sort of your Ryanair and your easyJet. I appreciate even with British Airways, it really is touch and go. It's down to the sort of crew. Food and service, like I say, food on board is what you would expect on a leisure airline. Prices were actually very reasonable. Again, I know I keep repeating myself, but as you would expect. The menu is, is actually, they offer quite a fair bit, to be fair, Jet2, and I found that the duty-free products they offer are actually more reasonably priced than you'd get on other airlines, or other other holiday airlines. There's nothing major on there that sort of makes you think, oh my god. Overall, the in-flight sort of experience, there's no in-flight entertainment, there's no screens, So, you know, bring your own device, bring a book, and, you know, after 2 hours and 30 minutes, time sort of flies, really. So, landing at the Stansted, overall, the experience at Alicante Airport was okay. It was alright, you know, it wasn't mind-blowing. Jet2 boarding there, the whole process of boarding was just absolute stress. The flight itself felt a bit cramped, but no, overall it was okay. 45 euros, you really cannot complain. It's not really hype, is it, really? Jet2 is sort of what you pay for, you know, it's a holiday airline, it's what you'd expect. So I'll now be quiet and let you enjoy the remaining seconds of the landing. Welcome to London Stansted on that approach. So I'll just sort of go back over the key points really. So is Jet2 just hype? Honestly, they're very fortunate, I think, because they've managed to just that whole nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. I mean, the marketing team were very lucky that got viral. You know, you compare them to sort of what Thomas Cook were, you compare them to TUI. Jet2 aren't, I don't think, hype. I really don't think it is. I think they offer a really good product as a holiday company. If you expect more of a premium product, then Jet2 don't expect that premium product from them. It's a proper holiday airline, they know what they're doing. So, welcome to Stansted anyway. We've deboarded, gone off via a jet bridge, which is very nice. Jet2 use Satellite 1 at London Stansted, which means you're off to the monorail. The famous monorail that likes to shut its doors and you see endless amount of people running from the escalators. Monorail, I was very fortunate, pulled up and literally the monorail was just coming in. And I was pretty speedy on the walk-in off the airplane as well, overtaking people. So it was a pretty quiet monorail journey. If you haven't been on the monorail, it's quite unique. The monorail at Stansted serves serves Satellite 1 and serves Satellite 2. So Stansted is split into satellites. You've got Sat 1, Sat 2, Satellite 3, also known as the Pig Pen where Ryanair are, and you've got Satellite 4 where everybody 80s and 90s, which hasn't been built. Through immigration, there was absolutely no queue in immigration whatsoever, and then you go to the baggage reclaim. I had no baggage, it was straight through, I had nothing to declare. Well, I mean, if I had something to declare, I probably wouldn't be declaring it on this video anyway, but not that I do. Bitrate and FPS had a bit of a catch there, and there we go, through to arrivals. Now, as you come through arrivals, you've got the new sort of style check-in area at Stansted on the right-hand side, which is for Emirates, TUI, and Pegasus, I think, also have a little dip in that market, unless if Pegasus might have moved. Now, I was getting picked up. Now, this is something that I think the video actually picks up. I thought to myself, do you know what? I won't go out of that exit because it's closed. And then the next exit was closed. And then the next exit was then closed. And I just ended up getting a bit stressed out. But I was getting picked up anyway. So, look, if you haven't seen this style of sort of what Stansted Airport looks like, this is what it looks like. Yeah, it's very sort of basic, isn't it? It's a very basic airport. It's Ryanair's home, really. It's Jet2 on the right hand side there, and there we go, another door exit closed. And I was actually didn't want to press the fire exit because I think the alarm would go off. Anyway, we're now out back in the UK in the rain, and I am waiting for my lift to pick me up. So overall, Jet2, is it just hype? I don't think it is. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and we're in for some big ones coming up. See you soon.